Hey, my name's Gabriel, and welcome to Tremblant 435, Episode 1. If you're here, you're probably somewhat interested in triathlons, I'd hope, specifically 70.3s, and how to do them, and hopefully that's what I'm here for. If you haven't seen my last video documenting my Chicago 2024 marathon experience and all the emotions that brought out, I'd really recommend seeing it, as it meant a lot to me, so I'll link it up here, I think. But meanwhile, let's get into it. So as I said, my name's Gabriel. I'm 21. I'm a fourth-year architectural engineering student at the University of Waterloo, and currently I'm interning at an engineering firm in Vancouver. So I just started my 21-week training plan for Tremblant, but previously I have done 2 triathlons. The first was IRONMAN 70.3 Michigan, in which I went from 0 to triathlon in 16 weeks. Before that, I wasn't able to swim more than 25 meters. I never ran more than 10 kilometers, and the only times I biked was to work in the school. So it was a big change going into full triathlon training. And that race, after training for 16 weeks at about 15 hours a week of training, I finished in 5 hours and 35 minutes. Then took a break that winter, didn't really train at all until January. And then I started back up in a 21-week training plan this week, going up to 20 hours a week to train for IRONMAN 70.3 Musselman, which is in upstate New York. This time I learned a huge amount, learned what tempo was, threshold, VO2, wattage, all of these metrics that are really important for triathlon training. And this really aided me in my training to go 5:05 that summer. So this time I really wanted to document my training experience to help others get into this amazing sport that I discovered, and to share with you all the emotions in training for a 435, hopefully 435, Ironman 70.3. For those of you less familiar with triathlons, what is an Ironman 70.3? A 70.3 is a long-distance triathlon race that consists of a 1.9 kilometer swim, 90 kilometer bike, and a 21.1 kilometer run, which is a half marathon. So in order to go under 435, this would mean completing all 3 of these legs and 2 transitions, the first from swim to bike and the second from bike to run, in a total cumulative time of less than 4 hours 35 minutes. You can finish all 3 of these in any combination of times you want to get under 435, but for me, as a poor swimmer by triathlon standards, I am looking at specifically a 33-minute swim, which I think is 145 per 100 meters, a 2-hour 29 bike, which is 36 kilometers an hour, or about 220 to 230 watts if you plug it into Best Bike Split, which is a really helpful tool that I use that allows you to estimate your bike time based on elevation, aerodynamics, bicycle, wattage, etc. So I really recommend this tool. And then after that, a 128 half marathon, which is about 410 per kilometer. And then this allows me for 3 minutes and 30 seconds of transition times, which typically will be a 2-minute transition from swim to bike and a 1:30 transition from bike to run, which includes a 30-second pee break. And that comes to a total of 4 hours, 34 minutes, and 30 seconds. So lots of time to spare. So if any of you are engineers like me, you may be thinking, oh, isn't air resistance relative to speed exponential? Well, yes, it is. So wouldn't it be much harder to go from 5:05 to 4:35 than 5:35 to 5:05? Yes. However, this year I have a few things that are helping me out. The first is that I trained throughout the winter, which is a first for me. After my race in 2023 at Michigan, I stopped training until next January, and so I didn't really have much fitness carrying over into that training block. I sort of had to restart in terms of building a base and getting all my metrics back up. This year, after racing Chicago in October, I maintained my training throughout the winter with a training plan which included 3 runs a week, 3 bikes a week, and 4 swims a week. So that left me in incredible shape at the moment. Based on some recent workouts, I recently did a 3x2 mile at half marathon pace workout, a critical swim speed test, and an FTP test to measure my wattage on the bike. Based on my 3x2 mile, during my last training block for Musselman, I was doing those at about 4:30 per kilometer, and though it was the heat of the summer, I was struggling significantly by the 3rd or 4th rep of that. However, this time I was able to run those at 4:10, and that felt pretty comfortable, which is crazy to say because I didn't think I would make it through that workout. And then with my critical swim speed test, The last time I did a critical swim speed test was in the middle of the Musselman block, which I did at 151 per 100 meters, and that was in a 25 meter pool. However, I did another critical swim speed test last week, and I did that at 151 as well. However, in a 50 meter pool, which means that I got faster. And then recently I did an FTP test. My FTP during the Musselman training block was 250 watts, and recently mine came out to 278. So it looks like I'll be starting at a base that is equal, if not higher, than my fitness in the middle of the Musselman block. So I am in much better shape now than I was before. Secondly, I have a new secret weapon, and that secret weapon is named John C. Okay, so now that I'm done yapping about my bike, let's get into the training plan and the nitty-gritty. So this training plan is adapted from Matt Fitzgerald's 80-20 21-week level 3 Ironman 70.3 training plan. That's a mouthful. Basically, it's just a 21-week training plan that's based off of the training theory 80-20, which is 80% of your training will be in zone 1, zone 2 as base training, and then 20% of your training will be in zone 4, zone 5. And it's 21 weeks long and goes up to 20-ish hours a week of training in your peak week. But in most weeks, it'll be around 12 to 13, I think. And how I've structured it in the spreadsheet is it's a cyclical process where you have 2 weeks of builds and then 1 week of rest, and then you repeat that with 2 weeks build, 1 rest, 2 weeks build, one rest, or 3 build, 1 rest in this case, in order to continue increasing your training load and then allowing your body to absorb it on the rest weeks. So I used this training plan in order to do Musselman, but there were a few gripes I had with it. The first is that I didn't do any races leading up to the race. I just trained 21 weeks straight, which is kind of psychotic. So I implemented a few races. The first was a half marathon I just raced last Saturday. I'm recording this a week later. So I will be going over that in the next episode. And a 10K I'll be racing in May, the Sporting Life 10K, which is in Toronto. In these two races, I have basically adjusted the training loads for each week in order to help prep myself for those races while still maintaining training volume. And then some other things was that I found in both their cycling intervals and their running intervals, they tended to do, I think, 200% rest in relative to the interval time. So if there was a 1 minute interval, then there would be a 2 minute rest. And I found this allowed me to hit my times and hit my powers in these intervals. However, it didn't let my heart rate get up, and I didn't really get some great workouts out of these because my body was never paying for it that much. So I really wanted to make these workouts harder. And this was also influenced by my Chicago training block, which had some brutal workouts, midweek workouts on Wednesdays, where I'd have like 15 kilometers with 4 kilometers tempo, 3 kilometers tempo, and then 3 by 1 kilometer repeats at 5K pace. And that was like, I'd never seen a workout like that before, but I loved them because it got my fitness so up there. So I wanted to implement some of these into this training plan. So I have some here, like this one, which is 13 kilometers with 2 by 3 at tempo, and then 4 by 800. And this one, which is 15 kilometers with 5 tempo, 3 by 1 at 1K pace, and then 8 by 1 minute max. So those will be some really big workouts I'm looking forward to. And then for the bike, I've also adjusted my bikes so that I have, instead of doing 5 minutes rest, which it originally would have been, I'm only doing 2.5 minutes rest to give myself the same rest time that I would have interval time. I've color coded it so that pink is bikes, blue is swims, and green is runs, and purple are my physio exercises that I have to do, which, as you can tell, I have not been doing, but my knee was acting up a bit, so I have to get into those. And then yellow are brick workouts. So a brick workout is when you run directly off of the bike, and this helps prepare your legs for running off of the bike in the race. So brick workouts are marked in yellow, and then yellow workouts are just ones that I have to go over still because I'm not quite sure what I want to do for those days. And then I have my weekly totals on the right, and then as I go through the weeks, I have them marked in green for workouts I did the day I planned and the workout I did as intended. And then yellow is workouts where I had to move mileage around or I didn't quite hit the intervals. And then red are ones that I missed completely and didn't make up later in the weeks. And then I have my notes section on the right. So I'm really excited to go through this training plan because on one hand, I'm being my own coach and implementing things I've learned over the years to adapt this training plan to my needs. But on the other hand, it's still a pre-made training plan, so it's not completely my own work. So I'm really excited to see how my body responds to all of this training and how it affects me. Though 21 weeks is a long time, I found this is a good distance, and I'm really excited to race. And you guys can see all these workouts match up on my Strava if you follow me at Gabriel Osmond. And I'll also be sharing this training plan in the description below for anyone who wants to have this link to see what I'm doing and how my training is going, in case you want to apply any of these training theories to your own training. Excited to get into this, excited to break down my half marathon next video, and yeah, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for spending the time to watch, and I hope you learned something or were inspired in some sense, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.